Have you ever sat in a meeting as a project manager and quietly thought, is this it? Oh, you're not going to be honest with me. I get it. You're sitting in a meeting, you're tracking updates, you're following up on tasks, you're summarizing conversation, but you don't feel like you're leading anything. And if you ever wonder whether the problem is you or the role, today we're going to separate emotion from structure. And I'm even going to show you exactly what to do when your project manager role starts to feel pointless. Let me guess. You just probably been assigned your first project. Congratulations. You stepped into this PM role ready to lead, ready to influence, ready to drive outcomes that actually meant something. But you're reading status updates, you're tracking due dates, you're sitting in meetings where no decisions are actually getting made. They are meeting just to meet, and one day it hits you. It's actually the job. You're feeling bored, invisible, and most of all, you're feeling pointless. But there's one thing that starts to happen. This is what I call the turning point. See, here's what nobody told you. The problem isn't always the title. It's structure, it's clarity, and agency. And the first truth you have to accept: dysfunction isn't your fault, but it is your problem. Because as a PM, you're positioned to see the whole picture. Therefore, the growth, this is what I love here, is you stop waiting for the role to make sense and start making sense of the role. What you do, you separate what you can control from what you have no control over. You stop narrating statuses and start connecting delay to consequence. You make the invisible visible. You change questions you ask in the room from where does this stand to what's blocking this from moving right now. Sometimes the energy, it shifts. Sometimes the room shifts. And sometimes simply the structure looks a little vague, but we want to make it clear. So therefore, now it's time for the transformation. This is what even gets me more excited. Either the environment expands you or it actually reveals its limitations. And now you know the difference between a limited role and a limited organization. So make a decision, not a choice. We don't make choices here. We make decisions. You either choose or decide, to either elevate, redefine, or, as my grandma would say, exit stage right. Because as a project manager, without agency, you will eventually feel pointless. But as a project leader with clarity, you will always have leverage. Principle number one: dysfunction isn't your fault, but it is your problem to solve. Sometimes the environment is disorganized. Decisions are not clear. Meetings lack structure. Leaders contradict each other. Timelines shift with no ownership. That dysfunction exits right in front of your face. But once you are a project manager, you sit in one of those roles, designed to see across silos. You see the misalignment. You see the friction. You actually are able to see the bottlenecks. That visibility changes the equation. It may not be your fault, but it becomes your responsibility to respond to the strategical change that you need to make. Why is this important? If you internalize dysfunction as a personal failure, your confidence will disappear. Okay, you don't like that? It will erode. See, if you externalize everything as it's not my problem, your influence role. Leadership lives in the middle. When you expect or accept that a dysfunction is your problem to navigate, now you take back control. See, now it's not a burden to absorb. Now you move from emotional reaction to strategic response. That's the difference between feeling pointless and becoming powerful. Oh, I like that, family. Experiment with these actionable tips. At the end of the day, or your next work day, write down everything that frustrated you. Once you write it down, split it into two columns: mine and not mine. Be ruthless. Be honest. Be transparent with yourself. Don't try to hide. Write it down. See, what you will likely find is that most of what drains you was never your control. Next one: diagnose before you react. Instead of saying, this is chaotic, identify specifically what is broken. Is it an unclear decision ownership? Is it a lack of stakeholder alignment? Is it a scope ambiguity? These are the type of questions you can ask yourself. Here's my professional advice, family. Strong project managers don't wait for organizations to become mature. They operate maturely inside immature systems. Ooh, I like that, family. See, that mindset alone That separates the admin PM from that leadership PM. But once you adapt to the dysfunction in your own environment, the next question becomes, what can you actually control? Because trying to fix everything will burn you out, which leads to principle number 2. Principle number 2, separate what you can control from what you can't control. See, when roles feels pointless, it usually becomes your energy being spent in places you have no authority. You can't control office politics. You can't control budget constraints. I wish you would take a shot at trying to control organizational priorities. Whether someone does it or not, you have no control. See, you can control, though, clarity of communication. You can control the structure of meeting. You can control how you frame risk. And most of all, how you narrate, or I should say, navigate the organization and have impact and influence. See, power comes from focus or focusing on your effort where you have leverage. Why is this important? If you constantly fight what you cannot influence, frustration becomes your default state. But when you separate or operate within your sphere of control, your presence becomes consistent. Now, you look calm. Now, you become strategic. Now, you have an opportunity to build consistency, which in turn, watch this, family, will allow you to build credibility, because credibility gives you influence. Experiment with these actionable tips. Before your next reoccurring meeting, write one sentence that answers this question. Here you go, family. What decision needs to come out of this meeting? See, if you can't answer it, you need to redesign the meeting before you send the invite. Next one, upgrade one controllable variable immediately. Here's an example. Can you improve meeting structure this week? Here's another one. Clarify next steps more precisely. I'll give you another one, family. Escalate risk with a sharper language. See, what I'm trying to do here is challenge you just to pick one area and then raise your standards. Here's my professional advice, family. Momentum is just perception, but don't panic. See, this is an opportunity for you to grow. And control is an opportunity for you to understand, I just don't have control over that. But if you master what is yours, your influence grows naturally. If you chase what is not yours, your authority, I'll just say, it shrinks. See, now that you've narrowed the energy to what you can control, let's look at the biggest reasons roles feel pointless and meetings that go nowhere. Principle number 3, meetings feel pointless when they lack a decision flow. See, most meetings don't feel pointless because they exist. They feel pointless because nothing moves, no decisions are made, no trade-offs are clarified, no ownership shifts hands. You walk into updates, you walk out with more updates. That's not project leadership. That is basically a narrative repetition. See, a meeting without decision flows turns into a project manager becoming a recorder. A meeting with a decision flow, though, turns into a project manager who is there, not in the passenger seat, but in the driver's seat. Why is this important? If meetings don't produce movement, your role starts to feel administrative. Over time, I guarantee you, I promise you, your energy will drop. Oh, you missed what I just said there. I said your energy will drop. See, urgency is important. Decision flows restores momentum. Momentum restores meaning. And when movement happens, your presence becomes necessary. Experiment with these actionable tips. This week, identify one problem in your organization that nobody owns, not a task, a real problem with a cost attached to it. Then quietly start working on a perspective around it. You don't need permission to actually think. Next one, frame agenda items as decisions, not updates. So here's an example. Instead of project timeline review, use decision. Do we approve this revised timeline or not? What are we doing? See, language, what it does is it shapes expectation. And you know the model. A lack of expectation creates frustration, or a misunderstanding of expectation can create frustration. Ooh, I like that, family. See, if no decision is made, questions whether the meeting is needed. Strong PMs don't host meetings to fill calendars. They host meetings to unlock something that the meeting requires, a decision, a conversation that may need to be had that is a crucial conversation, meaning a tough conversation. What a meeting does is us getting value from what we came here to do. But decision flow doesn't happen automatically. happens when someone asks better questions? What leads to my principle number 4. Principle number 4, ask better questions in the room. The fastest way to elevate your influence is not by speaking more. It's by asking sharper questions. Basic questions gather information. We'll watch this is getting good. Strategic questions surface tension. Leadership's questions force clarity. And when your role feels pointless, it's often because you're narrating instead of probing. Questions create leverage. Why is this important? The quality of your questions determines the depth of the conversation. If you're only asking, hey, where do we stand? You will only receive surface answers. But watch this. If you ask, what risk does this create if this slips in 2 weeks? Now you've challenged the room. Now you've imposed your will. Better questions change the temperature. I like that. So experiment with these actionable tips. Upgrade one question per meeting. Instead of asking for status, ask for impact. Instead of asking for completion, ask for consequences. I'm going to give you an example. Here's a good example. What happens if we don't solve this by Friday? Next one. Pause after asking. Ask once, then stop talking. Silence forces ownership. Leaders don't rush to rescue the room. We need to get to the bottom of your answer. So here's my professional advice, family. Authority doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from asking the questions people are afraid and avoid. But once you improve your decision flow and elevate your questions, something interesting starts happening. You start seeing patterns others don't. And that leads me to the next principle. Principle number 5, make the invisible visible. Many project managers feel pointless because their impact is invisible. Delays are happening, risks are building, dependencies are tightening, but no one, and I mean no one, feels it yet. Your job is not to track the work, it's to translate hidden friction into visible consequences. That's influence right there. Why is this important? Executives don't spend time responding to activity. You know what they respond to? Impact. You know what they respond to? Execution. See, if you say this delay shifts launch by 2 weeks and increased cost by 8%, see, that hits different, don't it? See, with leadership, you are very succinct. With leadership, you are very concise, meaning that visibility creates urgency. Urgency creates relevance. Ooh, I like that, family. Experiment with these actionable tips. After every conversation about a project, send 2 to 3 sentence recap. What was discussed? What was decided? What are you moving forward with? That habit alone will save you from the misalignment than any tool or process ever could. Translate every delay into a business impact. Ask, what does this delay affect? Time? Cost? Customer experience? Compliance? See, never report movement without meaning. Here's my professional advice, family. If you don't frame the risk, trust me, someone else will minimize it. See, now that you made the impact visible, your role, okay, we started to move along. It's getting a little sharper. And that brings us to the formal, or I should say something I really love, the foundation, which is clarity. Principle number 6, clarity is your job. When a role feels pointless, confusion is usually present somewhere. Unclear scope, unclear priority. Who owns this? Unclear success measure. When clarity is missing, energy begins to drain. And as a PM, your job is not to be the smartest person in the room. Your job is to reduce ambiguity. Your job is to translate noise into decisions and directions. Why is this important? Confusion creates hesitation. Hesitation creates delays. Delays create frustration. When you're constantly bringing clarity, you become stabilizing, and stabilizing people earn trust. Trust restores relevancy. Experiment with these actual tips. Summarize what you hear in real time. For example, let me summarize this. So what I'm hearing is the state, and then you state the decision, the owner, the deadline, and the risk. Next one. Define done explicitly. Ask, what does success look like here? Make sure to force specifics. Here's my professional advice, family. You don't need more authority to bring clarity. You need discipline. Clarity is leadership in its purest form. but sometimes the role still feels flat, even after structure improves. And that's when we have to confront something deeper. Principle number 7, boredom is often untapped potential. Ooh, I like that, family. See, when you feel bored, you might assume the role isn't challenging, but boredom often signals something else. It signals capacity. You may be underutilized. You may see inefficiencies, others don't. You may be even operating below your growth curve. That discomfort isn't weakness, but it is awareness. Why is that important? If you misinterpret boredom as incompetent, first of all, you will shrink. Because you'll shrink to the environment that you're in because you feel that you're bored. If you interpret boredom as a signal, you have an opportunity to expand. The growth requires friction. Sometimes friction is not chaos. Sometimes it's just stagnation. Experiment with these actionable tips. Expand your influence laterally. If your direct scope is narrow, widen your visibility. Understand adjacent teams. Study upstream decisions. Offer insight, not just intrusion. Influence expands before any title ever can and will. Next one. Improve one system quietly. Find one reoccurring inefficiency and fix it. Not loudly, not emotionally, quietly, consistently. See, outcomes build credibility faster than any frustration of someone complaining. That's heavy. Here's my professional advice, family. High capacity professionals often outgrow roles before they outgrow organization. Please, I beg of you, please make sure that you recognize the difference. And once you evaluate your structure, your control, your clarity, and your capacity, now we've arrived to the final destination point. Principle number 8, when the role feels pointless, make a decision. Either elevate, redefine, or as my granny would say, exit stage right. Then at some point, analysis becomes clarity. You've improved meetings. You've asked sharper questions. You've brought structure. You've expanded your influence. Now you evaluate the response. Does the environment stretch you or does it resist growth? That answer determines your next move. Why is that important? Staying in a low energy role erodes confidence. Leaving prematurely without reflection erodes discipline. Leadership is not a reaction. It is a decision. Experiment with these actionable tips. Elevate before you exit. Before considering departure, ask, have I truly, and I do mean truly, elevated my influence? Have I clearly defined impact? Have I made risk visible? If not, you probably should start there. Next one, redefine scope strategically. Sometimes growth is internal. Can you lead a cross-functional initiative? Take ownership of governance. Maybe even propose a process improvement. If growth is blocked entirely, well, maybe it's time to exit because strategically or emotionally, you've already checked out. Just being honest. Here's my professional advice. Strong leaders don't drift. They make a decision, they elevate, they redefine, or they exit, but never stay unconsciously. It's very important that you understand this, family. When you get into this thing that I love, that I hope you fall in love with, called project management, I don't care if you're a new PM, a middle year, I say 5 years PM, or someone like myself that's been in this more than a decade. That part right there about elevate, redefine, or exit is so true because you don't want to leave too early because of you're being challenged, but you don't want to stick around where you're not wanted. Here's the truth, family. When your project manager role feels pointless, it's rarely because you lack ability. It's usually because you haven't aligned structure, clarity, and agency. And once you understand that, you stop asking, is this the job? You start asking, how do I lead within it? There's a big difference between managing projects and becoming that leader that projects need. If this resonated with you, don't rush past it. Choose one principle, practice it intentionally this week. And if you know a project manager who is questioning themselves right now, Hey, do me a favor. I put this out for you. Do me a favor. Send this their way. And for those ready to build confidence, judgment, and leadership depth over time, you'll find my mentorship and coaching link in today's episode. And if you're new to the episode, I go by the name ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, hey, listen, that just simply means it. Until next time.